Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space. Aetheral Space 5.18, Distraction.
It's your turn to distraction. Gonna find a different way to do it each time.
What's wrong? Don't you want to do a distraction?
Come on, Sarah. Alright, I've steam bathed my face a bit and done some stuff, so I should be able to do voices again and not make poor Tanhony have to read the whole chapter. Excuse me. But, you don't need a recap. We've, ditched recaps at this point, right?
Yeah, you remember what happened, right? If you don't,
better.
Maybe you should go back and read the last chapter again. Maybe leave your review while you're doing it.
Yeah, on Royal Road. I know you have to make an account. It's very difficult, but you can actually just use a linked Google account.
It's so difficult.
And it'll make an account for you if you just link a Google, so then you can leave a review and it's not even that much work.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Why haven't you done it yet?
Just being super aggressive about it. People are always it's so annoying when YouTubers tell you to subscribe and we spend a minute of every Aetheral Space being make a Royal Road review now.
No, but we ditched the facade. We're just threatening you.
Yeah. Fucking run! Dragon didn't need to say it twice, and yet he did. In one smooth motion, Ruth charged at him, slung him over her shoulder, and began sprinting off towards the woods, red aether sparking along the ground with every single footfall. Serena did much the same with the remaining rebel, but a little gentler, more piggyback ride than sack of potatoes. Dragon suppressed nausea as his vision bounced around, the ground beneath him a blur. He looked upwards as much as air pressure would allow. They weren't out of the woods yet. Well, they weren't in the woods yet, but those were the same thing given the circumstances. The avian guardian entity swooped down, claws clearly poised to pluck off Dragon's head just as it had with the female rebel. But Ruth didn't miss a trick. Just as the bird thing was about to make contact, she swung around on her heel, slamming her other leg into the creature with a devastating roundhouse kick. The entity went flying into a tree in a broken pile and disappeared from view a second later as they entered the forest. Dragon didn't know how Ruth managed to run at this kind of speed without crashing into any of the foliage. Countless massive trees rushed past them as they ran, an arboreal network that was as much a labyrinth as a natural formation. Dragon had no doubt an ordinary person would get lost walking through here, never mind running. There was no time to waste appreciating Ruth's talent, however. The barks of things that were definitely not dogs sounded out behind them, quickly growing closer. Serena, with the terrified rebel clinging to her back, wasn't nearly as fast as Ruth. She was just as adept in close combat, but her speed left something to be desired. "Miss Ruth!" Serena cried out, voice nearly swallowed by the rushing wind. "They're catching up!" No sooner had the words left her mouth than a massive skinless creature, quadrupedal, with a head that was little more than teeth, leapt out of the foliage behind her, its jaws only barely missing Serena's skull. The girl rolled as the beast jumped above her, the rebel getting a face full of dirt in the process. Again, Ruth span on her heel, but this time the guardian entity was faster, firing out one of its teeth. Its spear-like teeth with devastating force. The projectile missed Serena, but the rebel peering over her shoulder wasn't quite as lucky. The tooth struck him in the eye socket like a harpoon, coming out the back of his head and causing him to crumple down onto the ground. Oh, that's kind of sad. He just wanted to live, damn it. This wouldn't have happened if Dragon let him keep his sword. Serena narrowly avoided the same fate. Yeah! Serena narrowly avoided the same fate, Bruno taking over and deflecting the entity's second shot with a well-timed force field. Bruno faced off against the Canid, a barely visible shield hovering over each of his hands. He glanced towards Ruth and Dragon as if for guidance. "We've got to keep moving!" Dragon shouted in answer. "They'll all catch up with us if we let them slow us!" He was interrupted as Ruth leapt high into the air, gripping the bark of the nearest tree with a hand to halt her ascent. The space they just occupied was now filled with some kind of pale white smoke. And as Dragon looked down with it, he saw what looked like... I'm sorry, what'd you say? Oh, looked down at it. He saw what looked like a flap of skin floating through the air, belching more of the gas every few seconds. Sorry, that was me. Dragon hadn't gotten unscathed either. His left arm had been touched by the gas, and as he watched in horror, the limb turned gray and lifeless. Oh my god! Did he lose his arm?
Well, no, it's just sort of fucked up.
A feeling of utter numbness making itself known in his body. His arm didn't feel hot or cold exactly. It was more like there was no temperature at all. The useless limb hung limp at his side. Two enemies, the dog and the skin thing. If they took care of them quick, they could still escape. How could they do it? They'd boom, boom, boom! Before he could even register what had happened, Dragon's train of thought was again brought to a grinding halt. The trees shook as the booming noise came closer and closer. Birds fleeing up into the sky. Not explosions. Footsteps! Something truly massive was headed their way. Many pairs of green, glowing eyes appeared in the darkness between the trees, glaring at Dragon and Ruth with obvious murderous intent. Far above, the avian entity had returned, circling their position like a vulture. "It's fine," Dragon breathed quietly, still trying to come up with a plan. Dragon, Ruth said from beside him, her voice firm. She sounded more serious than he'd ever heard from her. "Answer me honestly. Have you got a plan to get us out of this?" His initial reply was almost automatic. "Of course I..." No, he corrected himself. "No, I don't." Ruth was silent for a moment, even as the... Oh, she'd better not aether burn. Even as the skin entity wafted closer. Dragon fired a Gemini shotgun at it, but it simply twisted in the air as the projectile zoomed past. This was a thing that could ride the wind, clearly. Boom! 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 Before the skin thing could reach them, Ruth jumped down from the tree and landed next to Bruno. The force fields Bruno had created around the canid entity were acting as something of a... Sorry, yeah, you got me fucked up with the thing there. Were acting as something of a prison, restraining it to such a degree that it could do little else but twitch and growl. But the moment something else was the focus of Bruno's attention, Dragon knew it would break free. All this was accomplishing was stalling, and the time for that had long passed. "Bruno," Ruth said, peeling Dragon's half-limp form off her back. "Take him." Bruno glanced towards her, his brow furrowed. "What?" Dragon's head snapped in Ruth's direction. "What?" Ruth took a deep breath. "We're not all getting out of this. I'll piss him off, lead him on a chase while you get back to the rebel base. I'll meet up with you later." Bruno's eyes remained fixed on the canid entity, but he was gritting his teeth so hard that Dragon could hear it. "You'll die." The slightest smirk returned to Ruth's face as she threw Dragon onto Bruno's back. "Nah," she said. "This is what I'm good at." She went to turn away, but stopped as a gray shaking hand grabbed her by the arm. It took Dragon a second to realize it was his own hand. No! He reached down from Bruno's back with all the meager strength his body would still afford him. "You'll die," he mumbled. "They'll kill you." "They'd have to catch me first." Ruth smirk didn't fade, but it still didn't ring true, like a smile painted on a doll. He couldn't relent then. "You promised me you'd show me there was more to people," he said. I'm still waiting. You can't show me that if you're dead. So don't die. Understand?" His grip tightened as much as it was able, but slipped away all the same. Ruth's smile became just a tad more genuine. "I understand. If she dies, I'll be sad. Don't make her die, Tan." Come on. This is where Skipper has to die instead and take the bullets, right?
He disappears like mysterious stranger.
Yeah, he jumps out of his coma. "It's been hard, hasn't it? All on your own."
You won a psychological battle, Ruth.
And with that, she was on the move. The canid entity was stabbed to death with one of its teeth. The skin entity smashed out of existence with the swing of an uprooted tree, and the bird entity zoomed after Ruth as she disappeared into the undergrowth. Boom! 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 Reluctant to tear his gaze away from the spot Ruth had disappeared from, Dragon spoke to Bruno. "Let's go." Nail held his shamisen in both hands as he strode through the destruction, ready to counter any traps the Crimson Assassin may have laid. The section of the camp the ambassadors had visited was in ruins, medics scurrying to and fro as they tended to the wounded. Tents reduced to tatters, fires blazing. Abram had suffered from a serious head wound after smashing into that bookcase that had been spirited off to the medical tents as soon as the situation had calmed down. He should have expected this result. This was what came from trying to negotiate with the dishonest. A majority of the regulators stationed here with guardian entities had gone to pursue the enemy. With sheer numbers and sheer strength, Nail didn't imagine their assailants would be able to stay on the run for very long at all. If nothing else, this devastation would soon be avenged. Nail turned to look at Greena, to ask her opinion, but she wasn't there. Of course, she'd gone to pursue Dragon Hadrian, too. He should have expected as much from his oldest friend. The forest folk had never been treated kindly by the people of Corin. When the woods that covered the world had gotten in the way of the city's expansion, they had been cleared away, along with the people that had called them home. Greena was a rare exception to the rule. Most forest folk would gladly crucify a regulator rather than defend them as she had. He didn't deserve such kindness. Some would have called it naivety, but Nail Manrun couldn't help but feel a deep and overwhelming sadness as he looked at how the situation had concluded. War was only to be expected. They were warriors after all. But had there really been no other way? Shimichiro disappeared from Nail's hands. He did not need it right now. A guardian entity was a tool of violence. Right now, what they needed was to rebuild. Alright, I'm going to popcorn it to you.
The route Bruno had taken back to the tunnel system was long and winding, but they eventually found themselves once more at the discreet mouth of the cave. That girl, Lily Obershaw, was already standing there, arms crossed as she waited for their return. Her brow creased as she looked at the two of them, Bruno finally letting Dragon off his back. The grey numbness on his left arm was finally beginning to clear, colour and sensation returning to the limb. "Where are the others?" Lily asked, but her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Dragon glanced down at the ground. "I'm sorry." The rebel leader bit her thumb with such force it seemed as though the digit could come unclean off. Dragon couldn't exactly blame her, this was an utter mess of a situation. "Blame too?" she asked after a moment, her voice guilty as she did so. Even now, she had to focus on the most valuable of the resources she'd lost. Bruno opened his mouth to speak, massaging his shoulder with one hand. "She went to distract the enemy, led them on a chase. We don't know if she's fine," Dragon said with surprising firmness. When the other two looked at him, he meekly elaborated. "She's strong, she can handle herself." But Eli and Mira did, Lily sighed, sitting down on the ground and returning to the chewing of her thumb. Fuck. The rebels hadn't been in such dire straits before. Dragon could tell that just by looking. Otherwise, their leader would have been more used to their deaths by now. It wasn't his usual role, but Dragon felt obliged to raise some spirits here. It's not all bad, they're still disorganised after the attack. There's our chance to break through their ranks, make a run for it. Do you know what route we'll take? Thumb left Lily's mouth and she turned her head over her shoulder to look into the darkness of the cave. About that. Echoing footsteps come from in the soaked-down tunnel, accompanied by a familiar, annoying-sounding voice.
Is this my turn?
Go for it.
Oh no, you got it. You know the voice.
No, you're legit. You can't have...
Do you know what route we'll take? That ain't the question, Mr. Adrian. That isn't the question you need to ask at all, yeah?
It said.
The real question is...
The figure stepped out of the darkness, sunlight shining off the prosthetic arm. A smirk returned to Bruno's face, and, infuriatingly enough, Dragon found his own lips twisting in relief. It'd taken long enough, after all. They'd been kept waiting.
The star of the show!
Reception.
The real question is, he said, how are we gonna make out... Oh, wait, I got lost. How are we gonna make our way out?
"I really thought you were a goner," said Dragon, biting a chunk from a piece of carrot-like fruit as he looked Skipper up and down. "Guess the big guy's guardian entity is good at what it does."
Ah!
Skipper laughed, with more than a bit of a wheeze to it.
Me? Die? I don't mind telling you this, kid, but I've never died even once in my life.
Dragon rolled his eyes. What a feat. Oh yeah, that's still me. They'd moved back to the cave Dragon had originally woken up in, Skipper taking a seat on a loose piece of rock while Lily went to aid to find the best location for their escape. The four of them, Skipper, Dragon, Bruno and Serena, were alone for what felt like the first time in a while. They were still missing one person though. Serena poked Skipper on the cheek, her jab obnoxiously sharp. "Maybe he's a zombie," she speculated, her other finger on her lips. "That's why he's not dead."
I'm just not so easy to kill.
Skipper replied with more than a trace of smugness, thumping his metal fist against the if still hovering over his chest.
And this thing doesn't hurt either. I'm still mending, but I'm over the 50% mark, baby! Feels good to be back! Wait, hold on, can I get a quick... I assume this glyph's like his recovery glyph, and is he only at 50% power, or is he just like 50% healthy?
Healthy.
Okay, so he still has full power for battle.
Yeah, but it's like... He's also like messed up still.
Yeah, it's like in Dark Souls when you die and you lose your ember, so like the max health is reduced, and you're a little bit hollow.
"I'm going hollow, Dragon." "I'm sure it does," Dragon laughed. "By the way, since I've got hold of you right now, can I ask you a quick question?" Skipper grinned back.
Sure thing, my good pal.
"How come you kidnapped me?"
Oh, finally! Long have I waited!
Skipper blinked, the grins fading from his face. Serena cocked her head quizzically, finger still on her lips. Dragon's smile spread just a bit wider, fake friendliness consuming his face.
You,
Skipper chuckled awkwardly.
You sure this is the best time for that? Did he say ha-ha out loud?
Yeah.
Instead of laughed?
Dragon didn't blink. Sure I do, you're not exactly going anywhere. You only gave me half an answer back on Talden, Skipper. He dropped the fake smile. Time for the other half.
Oh, man. So, what was the first half again?
So it was like, someone I wanted to kill, I can't tell you how you're going to help me with that, but you are going to help me. That was very vague.
Yeah. Dude, finally. How much of this was because this is the time for it to come up in the story, and how much was because I kept pestering you? I wanted to know.
There's elements of both.
I'm so happy, finally. And you know what? He has a reason. Ruth might be dead, damn it. He deserves to know what she's dying for. What is so freaking important, Skipper? He's like, actually, I need to get a birthday gift for my mother.
I was actually looking for Dragon Hadrian. This is all a coincidence.
Yeah, he's much stronger and smarter than you, bud. You'll do. Dragon Hadrian should be the name of Dragon's father, and he has a giant dragon tattoo.
It's like a pirate.
Yeah! He's like 12 feet tall. He's a gene tyrant.
He's like Davy Jones.
They call me the Dragon of the Stars. Wow, what a great name, Father. Alright, well that was epic. Yeah, thank you for watching. If Ruth dies, I'll be really sad. And it shouldn't happen. But you have been building her up a lot, so I feel like she might die. But if she dies, I'll be sad.
We'll surely find out.
If she dies, I want it to be in Skipper or Dragon's arms, so they can send her off.
See you next time, guys.
Bye!
Bye!